YoungBoy, who's locked up right now, just released or they leaked a song called Active, and they're saying there's a diss song towards you. So there's a couple lines in it.
Boosie Badazz just went on Instagram Live and did something nobody saw coming. He looked directly into the camera and said he's reaching out to Donald Trump to pardon NBA YoungBoy, not asking fans to start a petition, not tweeting about it for engagement. He said he's actually trying to get in contact with the president-elect to free one of the biggest rappers in the game right now. And honestly, when you look at what's been happening with YoungBoy's legal situation over the past few years, you start to understand why Boosie feels like this is the only move left. So let me take you through this whole situation because it's way more complicated than just another rapper asking for someone to get out of jail. We're talking about a 25-year-old who's been dealing with the feds since he was a teenager, a Louisiana legend who's watched this play out from the sidelines, and a political landscape that might actually make this possible. Yeah, I said it. This might actually work. Let me start with what Boosie actually said because the internet's been twisting his words. On November 10th, 2025, Boosie went live and talked about NBA YoungBoy's situation for almost 20 minutes. He wasn't emotional or begging in the way people are making it seem. He was calculated. Boosie said he knows people who know Trump, and he's trying to use those connections to get a meeting. He mentioned how Trump pardoned Lil Wayne back in January 2021, right before leaving office the first time. Boosie kept saying, YoungBoy deserves the same chance because, in his words, this boy ain't hurt nobody. They just don't want to see him win.
This is something I wasn't expecting this year, but you and NBA YoungBoy actually got on the phone together, along with some other people as well. You want to say who they are, or is that still a secret?
The thing is, Boosie's not wrong about the Trump and Lil Wayne situation. On January 19th, 2021, literally Trump's last full day as president, he pardoned Wayne for a federal weapons charge. Wayne had been facing up to 10 years for possession of a loaded .45 caliber handgun on a private jet back in December 2019. Trump just wiped it clean. And if you remember, Wayne had met with Trump in October 2020, took a picture with him, and even endorsed his criminal justice reform plan. People clowned Wayne for it. But 3 months later, he walked away from a potential decade in prison. So Boosie's looking at that and thinking, why can't this work for YoungBoy? And before you say it's different, let me explain YoungBoy's actual legal situation because the media's been all over the place with it. NBA YoungBoy, real name Kentrell Gaulden, has been under house arrest in Utah since October 2021. Not jail, house arrest. But it's not like he's just chilling at home making music. He's wearing an ankle monitor, can't leave his property, and has federal agents watching his every move. This all started back in September 2020 when he got arrested in Baton Rouge during a music video shoot. The feds rolled up with 16 agents and found guns in the vehicle he was in. Now, YoungBoy's a convicted felon from a 2017 case, so he legally can't possess firearms.
I mean, it was, me, YB, Gates, and Freedom.
Boosie, NBA YoungBoy.
The charge was felon in possession of a firearm, and that's a federal charge, which means it's serious. But here's where it gets messy. In July 2022, YoungBoy went to trial in Los Angeles for this federal gun case. The prosecution brought everything they had. They showed surveillance footage. They had witnesses. They played his music lyrics in court trying to paint him as a gang member. And the jury found him not guilty, completely acquitted. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? He beat the case. Time to move on. Wrong. Because while that case was happening, the feds in Louisiana hit him with another indictment. This time, it wasn't just gun charges. In April 2024, YoungBoy was charged with identity fraud, forgery, and unlawfully obtaining prescription drugs. According to the indictment, he allegedly ran a large-scale prescription drug fraud operation out of Utah. The feds claim he was using other people's identities to get controlled substances. They say he had a doctor on payroll writing fake prescriptions. We're talking codeine, promethazine, the stuff that's in lean, the kind of charges that carry 20-plus years if he's convicted. So even though he beat the gun case in LA, he's still sitting in Utah waiting for this drug case to go to trial. His lawyers have been fighting to get the trial moved, arguing that the media coverage in Utah has been so negative that he can't get a fair jury.
Fredo Bang, Kevin Gates were on a group FaceTime.
Yeah.
And I remember, I've always been cool with Fredo since the beginning, right? Me and him actually spoke yesterday.
The trial's been delayed multiple times. As of right now, it's scheduled for early 2026, but nobody really knows if that date will stick. And this is why Boosie's so pressed about getting Trump involved. Because in Boosie's mind, and honestly in a lot of people's minds, this feels like the government's just piling charges on YoungBoy until something sticks. He beat the gun case in LA fair and square, and then boom, here comes another indictment. It feels targeted. Now let me tell you why Boosie specifically cares this much. It's not just solidarity between rappers. Boosie and YoungBoy have real history. They're both from Louisiana, both came up in Baton Rouge's street scene, and both had to deal with the system trying to bury them young. Boosie himself did 5 years in Angola State Penitentiary from 2009 to 2014 on drug charges. While he was locked up, he was also fighting a first-degree murder charge that could have given him the death penalty. He beat that case in 2012, but he stayed in prison finishing his drug sentence. So when Boosie talks about the feds targeting young black men from Louisiana, he's speaking from experience. Boosie's also watched YoungBoy's career from the beginning. When YoungBoy dropped 38 Baby in 2016, he was only 16 years old, and Boosie was one of the first big names to publicly support him. In a 2017 interview with Vlad TV, Boosie called YoungBoy the hardest young rapper out of Louisiana since himself. He said YoungBoy reminded him of his younger self, that raw energy and pain in the music. They even recorded a few songs together, though none of them officially dropped. But their relationship got deeper after YoungBoy's grandmother died in September 2021. Boosie reached out privately, and they talked on the phone for hours. YoungBoy mentioned this in an interview later, saying Boosie gave him game on how to handle fame and legal pressure at the same time. Since then, Boosie's been one of the few older rappers YoungBoy actually respects and listens to.
That's who told you.
That's who told me. He said not to say nothing. But since you're volunteering it, it just is what it is.
So when Boosie says he's reaching out to Trump, it's not a publicity stunt. He genuinely believes YoungBoy's talent is being wasted and that the legal system is more interested in making an example out of him than giving him a fair shot. But here's the big question everyone's asking. Can Trump even pardon YoungBoy right now? The short answer is no, not yet. Trump won the 2024 election, and he's president-elect, but he doesn't take office until January 20th, 2026. Until then, Joe Biden's still president, and he's the only one with pardon power. So technically, Boosie's timing is off by a couple months. But I think Boosie knows that. I think he's trying to plant the seed now so that when Trump does take office, this is already on his radar. And there's actually a reason to think Trump might be open to it. Trump's first term was all about criminal justice reform. At least that's what he promoted. He signed the First Step Act in December 2018, which reduced mandatory minimum sentences for nonviolent drug offenses and gave judges more discretion in sentencing. He pardoned or commuted the sentences of over 200 people during his first term. A lot of them were nonviolent drug offenders. Alice Johnson, the woman Kim Kardashian advocated for, got her sentence commuted by Trump in 2018 after serving 21 years for a first-time drug offense. Trump's also shown he's willing to pardon high-profile people if it gets him attention or support from communities he's trying to reach. That's exactly what happened with Lil Wayne. Wayne met with Trump, endorsed his policies, and 3 months later got a pardon. If YoungBoy or his team were willing to do something similar, a photo op or an endorsement, Trump might seriously consider it. But there's a big difference between Wayne's situation and YoungBoy's. Wayne had already pleaded guilty and was just waiting to be sentenced when Trump pardoned him.
But that's great, because I remember whenever... Is Fredo your cousin, or...?
Yeah, he like my cousin down the line.
Yeah.
The case was basically over. YoungBoy's case is still ongoing. He hasn't been convicted of anything yet in this Utah case. You can't pardon someone who hasn't been convicted. A pardon is forgiveness for a crime, which means there has to be a conviction first. So what could Trump actually do? He could pressure the Department of Justice to drop the charges. The president doesn't directly control individual prosecutions, but he appoints the attorney general, and the attorney general oversees all federal prosecutions. If Trump wanted to, he could have his AG review YoungBoy's case and recommend dropping it. It's happened before with politically sensitive cases. It's not common, but it's possible. Or if YoungBoy does get convicted before Trump leaves office, then yeah, Trump could pardon him, but that would mean YoungBoy loses at trial first, which nobody wants. Let me talk about YoungBoy's actual impact on music because that's part of why Boosie's fighting so hard for him. Since 2020, NBA YoungBoy has been one of the most streamed artists in the entire country, not just in hip-hop, in all of music. In 2021, he had the second most streamed artist on YouTube in the United States, only behind Drake. His album, Sincerely Kentrell, which dropped in September 2021 while he was in jail, debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200. He recorded the whole thing from a jail cell in Louisiana over the phone. Think about that. No professional studio, no engineer, just him rapping over beats through a jail phone, and it still hit #1. Even on house arrest in Utah, he's been insanely productive. He's dropped multiple albums and mixtapes since 2022. Colors, in January 2022. The Last Slimetto in August 2022. I Rest My Case in January 2023. Don't Try This at Home in April 2023. Richest Op in January 2024. He's averaging like 2 or 3 projects a year while fighting federal charges, and they all chart. They all go gold or platinum. His fans are that loyal.
But I remember whenever I used to mention him, he used to be like, well, I just don't talk about Baton Rouge politics. So
Yeah,
we've always just kind of left it alone.
We don't.
Right.
You never heard me get on here and talk about no Baton Rouge.
Exactly.
The crazy part is YoungBoy's done all this without traditional industry support. He doesn't do interviews. He barely promotes his music on social media. He's had beef with his label Atlantic Records for years. In 2022, he kept tweeting that they were holding his music hostage and not letting him release what he wanted. Eventually, they worked out a deal where he could drop independent projects while still being signed, which is almost unheard of. Most artists would kill for that kind of leverage. And his fan base is like a cult. YoungBoy's fans, they call themselves YB Better or 4KT, and they're relentless. Go into any rap comment section on Instagram or YouTube and you'll see YB Better comments everywhere, even on posts that have nothing to do with YoungBoy. It's become a whole meme at this point, but it's also real. His fans genuinely believe he's the best rapper alive, and they'll argue with anyone who says different. So when Boosie says YoungBoy's talent is being wasted, he's not exaggerating. You have an artist in his absolute prime, putting up streaming numbers that rival the biggest names in music, and he's stuck in a house in Utah fighting charges that might not even stick. If he gets convicted and does 20 years, that's it. His career's over. He'll be 45 years old when he gets out. The music industry moves too fast for that. By then, everyone will have moved on. Now, let's talk about the reality of Boosie's plan. Is he actually going to get a meeting with Trump? Who knows? Boosie's well connected in the industry, but getting to a president, even Trump, is a whole different level. That said, Trump's more accessible than most politicians. He's active on social media, he does interviews with podcasters and streamers, and he's always been drawn to celebrity. If someone like Lil Baby or Drake publicly backed this idea, Trump might actually pay attention. He loves when celebrities support him because it boosts his image with younger voters and black voters, 2 groups he's been trying to win over. There's also the fact that Trump's base includes a lot of people who are skeptical of the federal government and federal prosecutions. The whole deep state narrative Trump's been pushing for years aligns pretty well with the idea that the feds are targeting YoungBoy unfairly. If Trump's team spun it the right way, they could make this a win for his criminal justice reform legacy. But here's the thing nobody's talking about. Even if Trump wanted to help YoungBoy, the optics might be too risky.
The fact that all you guys, now you and YoungBoy, there's been some back and forth here and there. A lot of times it seems like it comes out of nowhere. You know, it seems like y'all are cool, and some YoungBoy drops some line about you and so forth. But what led up to this phone call?
YoungBoy's music is violent. I'm not saying that to judge him, I'm just stating facts. His lyrics talk about shootings, drug dealing, beef with other rappers. If Trump pardons or helps him, you can bet every news outlet will pull up those lyrics and accuse Trump of supporting violence. Trump's already facing criticism for some of his past pardons, like Steve Bannon and Roger Stone. Adding a rapper with YoungBoy's image to that list might not be worth the political capital. And let's be real, there's a racial component to this too. When Trump pardoned Lil Wayne, some people accused him of tokenism, of using a black celebrity to make himself look good with black voters. If he does the same thing with YoungBoy, especially right after taking office, it's going to look like a pattern. Critics will say he only cares about high-profile black men when it benefits him politically. Whether that's fair or not, that's the conversation that'll happen. On the flip side, if Trump does help YoungBoy, it could genuinely change how a lot of young people view him. YoungBoy's fan base is huge, and they're mostly young black and Hispanic men, demographics Trump has struggled with. If he frees YoungBoy or even just speaks out in support of him, that's a powerful gesture. It shows he's willing to use his power for someone who has no political influence, no money to donate, nothing to offer except the goodwill of his fans. There's also a precedent for presidents helping people based on celebrity advocacy. Like I mentioned earlier, Kim Kardashian met with Trump in 2018 to discuss Alice Johnson's case, and Trump commuted her sentence a week later. Kardashian had no political experience, but she had a platform, and she used it. If someone with a big enough platform, someone Trump respects, steps up for YoungBoy, it could move the needle. So where does this all leave us? Boosie's out here trying to make something happen that most people think is impossible. YoungBoy's sitting in Utah, still making music, still fighting his case, and still one of the biggest artists in the world. Despite everything working against him, Trump's about to take office with the power to change this situation if he wants to. And the whole thing's playing out in public because Boosie decided to go on Instagram Live and say what he's thinking. Honestly, I don't know if this is going to work. Part of me thinks Boosie's just frustrated and venting, that he knows this is a long shot, but he has to try anyway. Another part of me thinks he's smarter than people give him credit for, that he's playing a long game and using his platform to put pressure on the right people. Either way, it's worth paying attention to because stranger things have happened. A reality TV star became president. A guy who was facing 10 years in prison got pardoned and went back to making hits. The legal system is unpredictable, and politics is even more unpredictable. What I do know is that NBA YoungBoy's story is bigger than just one person. It's about how the system treats young black men, especially young black men who come from poverty and find success. It's about whether someone can actually change their life or if the past just keeps dragging them back down. And it's about whether the people in power are willing to show mercy or if they'd rather make examples.
Boosie's betting on mercy. We'll see if he's right.
So what do you think? Is Boosie wasting his time, or does Trump actually have a reason to help NBA YoungBoy? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you made it this far, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because we're going to keep covering this as it develops. There's way too much at stake to ignore.